I'm Miranda Rake.
And I'm Sarah Wheeler, and this is The Mother of It All, where we take on motherhood through the lens of culture and culture through the lens of motherhood.
Hello, Sarah.
Good morrow. How goes it?
Great.
Really?
I don't know.
I
I'm
saw
fine.
something that said we're not supposed to say how are you anymore. I'm like, obviously, like it's not like that was like the most probing question people were going to answer authentically, but like you have to start somewhere.
I feel like sometimes it's like, who is asking me and how do they say it? And I know
What would be like the most annoying new way of saying how are you that I could adopt? Would it be who are you? Like what would be like the most aggressive to be like at the drop-off line at school and be like, "Oh, hey Katie, like what is your, because we're doing all this like, and it's fine. I don't think we should feel bad about this, but like because the world is so depressing and frightening right now. I don't know about you, but like I'm doing a lot of like, how are you in your small world that you can control? But obviously you want to die. We all do. But like, how are you? And like apologizing for like answering that question in a way that isn't acknowledging the fact that like, there are no more civil rights.
Right. I mean, I think I usually just say like, how are you, considering like obviously bad, but
I can't tell if
also-
that's like the sweetest, most authentic thing or like kind of performative, or if just talking about it and dissecting it is like what's wrong with our generation. I'm not just being like, yeah, we're just all trying to be people. Can I use that as a segue into something I wanted to talk to you about?
Heck yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
I know I texted you about this, and I'm having like so many continued complicated feelings about this piece on Substack by a newsletter called Restoring American Adulthood. The title is Parenting Doesn't Have to Be This Hard. You can just tell your kids what to do. And somehow this newsletter, this like one essay, it's from like late last year, is playing into like everything that I find important and kind of frustrating about our parenting culture and the discourse around it.
Can I jump in with the subhead of you can just tell your kids what to do or whatever? Like, I don't know about you, but I think most of us have sat through an episode of Daniel Tiger and like, he's like, I can't wear that blue sweater. I only like my red sweater. And then the dad's
and
like,
then we sing a song.
Yes, you can wear your blue sweater today. And then Daniel's like, I can wear my blue sweater today. And I'm like, that's not how it goes. That's not what happens. Like, what happens is your kid cries for 35 minutes and screams and throws stuff. And then you wrench them into their sweater and drop them at school, like wiping tears from their face. It's not like, you're right, Dad, I can do that.
Right. We sing the like we believe in ourselves song. Yeah. Okay. So you're getting at like
anyway.
one thing that I think is a tension in this, which is that I think it's like mostly I think it's like fine and good that somebody feels like it works for them and their family and their kids to just be like, wear your blue sweater. And the kids are like, okay. I do think that happens. I don't think that it's like, I do think it. I've seen, I'm a parent coach,
You've seen it.
I was a kid, right? Like I know there are families and kids where that works. And I don't think it's like child abuse to give your kid a command. And
Whoa,
like,
coming in hot.
And I'm kind of right. I know my hot take. We have a professional here who can read in on that. But you know what I mean?
Abuse.
And so obviously that's okay. And I do think a piece of what would be helpful is our generation of intensive parents kind of understanding that like you don't have to turn everything into a complex emotional negotiation, right? Especially if that's not what your kid actually wants. Like some kids don't want to be Dr. Beckied. They don't want to have you tell them, I know it's hard to turn off the TV, but we're going to move on. They just want you to be like, it's time to turn off the TV.
Yeah.
And that feels good to them. But I don't think that the only reason that some parents aren't just giving their kids commands is that um, they don't know to try it. And I also think that, like, these things aren't as much in opposition as this piece would like to think, or is maybe kind of stirring up people to think, right? That, like, respecting your child and saying that they should have some agency is not the same as saying that kids are little adults, which is a phrase that is mentioned in this piece.
Yeah.
But, like, I don't think kids are little adults, but, like, I'm not psyched about referring to them, which this piece does, as subordinates. It's
Made me
not
think a
'cause
lot about Eloise Rickman's work about children's rights.
Right.
Like, it's not, I think what Eloise practices at home with her daughter is, I would say, or Stephanie Murray would say, is rather intensive. Like her acting out of like really, really prioritizing her child's rights is so cool to me. And
Yeah.
also incredibly intensive in terms of like the demand
Right.
on the parent. And I don't know that that's
No, I
sustainable, but I'm thinking about that is in such opposition to like the idea of your child as a subordinate and you are
right.
their leader,
Very
and it's
different.
like
But
extremely different. But I would say the part of the flag, I mean, I don't want to be bashing this person. I also am sad that
no,
we're
there's
talking
some
about it because
really
now we have to
interesting
link to it.
stuff, and
But it's like
yeah.
the piece opens with a conversation about gentle parenting. And like as we've discussed, like to me it's a flag. Anyone talking about gentle parenting is an immediate flag because like define that.
Right,
Right? Like
right.
this is not
It's
a
like
thing. This is a thing
yeah.
that people have made up as, and I think it means different things to different people. I
Right.
think
It's
that
like
everyone
Stephanie
has a different
Murray said here
definition.
that, like, we no longer know what intensive parenting
No,
means, right?
yeah,
Yeah.
nobody,
Yeah.
gentle parenting isn't even a thing. It's not a thing. It's not, it's
Right.
whatever you think it is, or it's whatever you want it to be to serve the argument you're trying to make, pro or con. It's not a thing. So or it's like a thing because people think it's a thing. But one of the interesting things about this piece was that it linked out to a study, a very small study that this professor, psychology professor who was at Macalester when this piece was written and is now somewhere else,
Go
um,
Canada.
is studying gentle parenting, like
Huh.
air quotes, gentle
Yeah.
parenting, because it's like she's basically like, wait, this isn't a thing,
Right.
but it also is. So what
You
is
mean
it?
she's, like, studying, trying to get a unified theory, or she's, like, watching parents do gentle parenting and seeing what the yeah, yeah,
She is
yeah.
studying what parents believe they mean when they
Right. Mhm.
talk about gentle parenting. Like, what
Mhm.
is this
Mhm.
phenomenon? Because it is a
Yeah.
cultural
My
idea, right?
my
If not a
definition is we got rid of
defined
all
practice.
as soon as my kids were born, we got rid of all hard surfaces in the home. It's just plush, so that they can never bonk themselves.
Yeah.
No, I mean, that is a
Everything is
very good
beanbags.
point,
Yeah.
right? And
Yeah.
somebody in the comments of this piece said, like, I think that, a lot of people misunderstand gentle parenting, what it means to this person. They were like, it just because you have a conversation with a kid about wearing the blue sweater and kind of acknowledge that that's hard doesn't mean that you, like, totally let go of all your priorities. You can say, like, you don't have to wear that sweater. It is going to be cold. One option is
Mhm.
to just go and you can deal with the cold, right? Or
Yeah.
you can carry it into the car. But we need to go to school, right? And
Mhm.
so I just don't think that explaining things to kids and helping kids develop problem-solving skills that like, acknowledge the reality of our complex interrelational lives, right? The fact that, like, I actually don't care if they wear the sweater. We just need to go, right? So now when we had a conversation, we drilled down to, like, what's actually important to me. I don't think that's the antithesis of having a little bit of adult agency, right?
Mhm.
And, like, being the adult in your home. And
Well,
so I also
right.
think, I just to go back to Eloise Rickman, and in our last bonus episode for paid subscribers, we talked about judging other parents. Is why do we have to judge other parents for the way that they parent? Like, why do we have to troll gentle parents? I don't want to parent exactly like Eloise does with like how the extent to which she is focusing on her child's rights. I do think it's cool. It doesn't work for me, but I don't need to judge that. I also don't know I don't know shit about the impact that's having on her kids. You know, like I'm sure our guests will talk about this. We know the impact that like traumatizing events and poverty and, super depressed parents have on a kid, right?
Yeah.
We don't know shit about what giving a command to your kid gently versus explaining it to them does, right? And so, like,
Yeah.
there's no humility in this stuff. And this is why I have such a hard time writing about anything that works for me as a parent, because I only want to do it if I can be humble about it, because I literally have like an N of one.
Yeah. Well, and
I
I
think
think,
I'm off my soapbox.
well, I like your soapbox, and I think that
Thank
what
you.
is
It's pink, it's bedazzled.
is beautiful. I think what is missing from, or why I don't enjoy reading pieces like that. I mean, there's a lot of Substack like trolling, right? And because it works and it's just the internet, right? That's the internet. And it's a
Not
cesspool.
the internet. Yeah.
But it's like, so what is boring and what no one wants to hear is like a lot of different ways of parenting work fine. And
You mean all of my newsletter posts where I'm like, it's
yeah, it's all
complicated.
fine, but it's
I
also
don't
fine.
know.
Like, I think to me, what I have observed, right, is like many different styles work, and like it's okay, right? Don't hit your kid. Don't like poison your child. You should feed
Right.
them, right? Like
Probably you shouldn't
fresh air
like
is good.
make them in charge of your like responsible for your emotions,
Yeah,
probably
but
not
like
awesome all
how,
the
right?
time.
And I think parenting, like the gentle parenting thing, like I think it circles back to, like you said, we were talking about before. It's like, it's a term that think it bugs me because people do use it either to assert some sort of like virtue signaling
Yeah.
about
Yeah.
themselves,
Hmm.
or to judge others like, oh, this gentle parent is raising a narcissist who
Right.
can't put their shoes on,
Hmm.
and look at my resilient kids who I don't know, whatever they
And
make
by
them
the
do.
way, we all have children under 10 and none of us actually know what the fuck we're talking about, right?
Yeah.
It's like, call me when your kids are 40. I don't know. And
But
also,
also, what are
remember
we
how the
like?
world influences them too? But
But also, who cares, right? This is not your child has value in the moment right now as they are. This is not an end game like scenario. Like, I don't, are you parenting to some kind of end game, or do you think that you're parenting to some,
uh,
what are you going for here, right?
oh,
Do
I'm
you
just
want
trying to
like,
be right and make sure other people know
but
that.
like I catch myself, and I think parents like where you're like, I
Yeah.
think I was accidentally
Oh, yeah.
worrying about some kind of future outcome that is very ill-defined.
I
Like,
still do
I'm
that
not
all the time.
trying to raise like the next like president of the UN General Assembly. Like, I don't
Right.
care if my children become that. I actually
Yeah. Presidents
don't
are
care.
bad now. So it's not, we can just let that go.
Yeah. Well,
All right.
anyway, this is a juicy
I
one, but
know.
we
I'm
should get
like,
into our
and I'm looking at our guests being like, what does Megan
come
think?
on. I know.
Okay.
So, all right.
Okay.
Well, let's get Megan. Megan, you should weigh in on this. But first, I'll
Hello.
introduce you.
I'm
Hello. Say
excited
hello.
to chat with you guys.
We're so excited to have you here. I know you're a parent. So Megan, if you don't know, Dr. Megan Pryor is a parent and board certified pediatrician,
No big
who
deal.
serves on the American Academy of Pediatrics Council on Early Childhood. You might know her from her social media account, Itty Bitty Revolution, which is how I first stumbled across your
It's so
work.
good.
It's
Oh,
so
thanks, guys.
satisfying. Oh my gosh. It's so satisfying to hear you talk about these things. So, and on Itty Bitty Revolution, you describe yourself as a pediatrician and mom with a policy obsession. Welcome, Megan.
Thank you. Thank you guys for having me. And I was fascinated to hear your chat before this. I am a mom of a 3 and almost 6-year-old, turned 6 in like 4 days.
Oh, happy
Um,
birthday.
yes, and admittedly, I think I'm less reflective about my parenting styles and feel that I've tried out every style under the sun. So I don't know. I don't know if I have a definition either. So I agree with that sentiment of like, none of us know what we're doing, even people who are formally trained.
Yeah,
Yes.
do people ask you about, like, should I be gentle parenting? Like, do they ask you for that kind of advice or not
Not
really?
really. No, it doesn't seem like that. I think it's something that like I don't get. I mean, obviously like talks about behavior and discipline and like how to handle challenging behaviors come up all the time in clinic, but I don't tend to have families like reflect on it in that way, and I think that is interesting that it's something that like well, I just don't think everybody is self-reflective about how they parent. Like I think it's actually a pretty small rare group of people that like outwardly identifies an identity
Mm,
and
mhm,
then I do think, in clinic, the thing that we really try to promote from the very beginning that I love is pediatricians use this phrase early relational health, which is basically like making sure that you have a bond with your child from the beginning and that like working on that bond is really important no matter what your relationship dynamic is. Like you should be able to hang out with each other, you should be able to make each other laugh, there should be times with your kid that you find fun. And like if you're raising a baby and you're not finding it fun to be alone with them at any point, like that's something we really got to kind of fix.
mhm.
um
God, hearing you say that I'm like, oh, I'm a good parent.
yeah, you're great,
I'm
you're
like,
probably doing really great. Yeah.
even when you started to talk about having a baby and I got a little nervous, like you were going to say fun all the time, but you said at some point, I was like, oh, I like that definition.
Occasionally
Oh
have fun
yeah,
with
no,
your
I
baby.
talk to people. I'm like 10 minutes a day, like start at 10 minutes of being
Yeah.
like, this will be 10 fun minutes with my kid. And it's actually funny. I do come back to that. My near 6-year-old, like not to call her out, but she's been having some like behavior challenges since starting kindergarten and just like having a tough time with that transition. And I was feeling that again, where I was like, I'm not sure that I've had 10 fun minutes with her per day recently. And like, obviously, that's a lot to do with like, I work all day long, she's at school all day long. Half of the time we're physically together is just like logistics. Like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
you must have food in your body, you must have shoes on your feet. And then I was like, oh, wait, like, I'm literally missing the 10 fun minutes.
Mhm,
Like,
Right.
I
It's
gotta
two
actually
two games of Uno.
yeah.
Like
And
mhm.
that makes
I
it
I've like
feel doable.
honestly been trying to put that back in our life and I feel like it's helping so much. And so I'm like, okay, that's the bar I set for parents at my clinic is like try 10 minutes of like actually liking your kid a day. And I myself am like honestly trying to get back into that.
Mhm.
I love
And it's
that.
helping. It's
It
helping.
feels achievable. Yeah,
I
it does go far.
I
10
won't
minutes
derail
goes
us too
far.
far, but I made this like silly little kind of like parenting zine project, basically. I'll put it in the show notes, but I made like, the cootie catchers on the schoolyard, like the little
Yeah, yeah.
fortune tellers. I made one that's like the 8 like tried and true like parenting tools that I've like developed, that I've kind of picked up in like 20 years of working with kids and parents. And so, but it's basically like the idea is like, if you're having any kind of problem and you do the fortune teller, like one of those things, if you flip it up, will give you an idea. And one of them is like, just like a tiny bit, are you spending any time that's like not engaging with the problem? Right.
Mhm,
Yeah.
And
mhm.
just 5 minutes, like
Yeah.
really small.
I can
So I
It
go
love
does.
that.
And
I feel
it's
so
affirmed.
far. Yeah, yeah.
yeah.
I'll send you my fortune teller,
All
but
right,
you
good. I'm
probably
really
already
excited to do it. Slash also good idea for your 10 fun minutes. I feel like my kids would love making
yeah,
one of
they can
those.
help you come up with
So
some
there you go.
strategies.
Mhm.
Oh, yeah, to make fortune tellers. Oh, yeah, my
Yeah.
kids have made a lot of them recently, but most of the fortunes are just like poop,
Yeah.
just the
Well,
word
Uh-huh.
poop.
so we kind of have touched on this, but we always open by asking who's caring for your kids. So it sounds like your older is in kindergarten.
She is in kindergarten right now. This is her first day back after like 9 days of snow canceled school. So
Whoa.
we're very
Whoa,
Congratulations.
excited.
yeah.
And then I also have a nanny. My 3-year-old's in preschool, and then our nanny's with her when she's not in preschool. And she's currently sleeping downstairs and hopefully does not make a cameo during our
Well, she's
conversation.
very
But,
I'll take
welcome.
cameos.
yes.
Okay, well, so Megan, I really want to get into, the reason we brought you on, or the kind of catalytic um drive for wanting to bring someone like you on the show right now. So obviously, recently, the Department of Health and Human Services announced huge changes to the childhood vaccine schedule. And it feels like a really crazy moment for many reasons, but as a parent of young children, I feel very glad that I don't have a newborn right now because of all of that. And also, really, my heart goes out to people who do. Like, that seems incredibly confusing and stressful. And obviously, like a massive backpedal for
Hmm.
science, I don't know, and medicine. But so I have also been very grateful for the strength of the AAP right now. They've been putting out amazing, clear information and messaging, and I hate
Hmm.
that they have to do that. Um, so can you talk a little bit about being a pediatrician in America right now?
Yeah. I mean, I think obviously vaccine hesitancy and questions about vaccines is not something new. Like, I've been a pediatrician now for 10 years, and it's something I've dealt with since becoming a pediatrician. I will say, kind of elevating it to the formality of government and the government becoming involved in sort of vaccine questioning and hesitancy is very abnormal. And then really the like lack of science in the government process is something that is like shocking and striking and just so different. Like, admittedly, whenever I had vaccine questions throughout all of my training, I have always gone first to the CDC website because it was previously the absolute best, most reliable, place of information. And so as a practitioner, like, it's been incredibly frustrating because that's where I turn. Like, I'm like, if I've got some crazy question about like, can this kid get a rotavirus vaccine if they had X, Y, or Z happen to them? Like, the
Yeah.
CDC would tell you that information. And so I think that change has been really hard of like, oh man, I can't trust this source that I used to trust. And like you
Mm-hmm.
said, like, the AAP has really stepped up and I very much appreciate that. And the nice thing is the AAP is a national resource. So like state legislatures and like insurance companies all over the nation can turn to the AAP.
Hmm.
And this is the first time that like the AAP vaccine recommendations have not matched the CDC's. Like, previously they were identical.
Yeah.
And
Huh.
so it's confusing. In practice, I will say like the way it's impacted my practice more recently is I kind of feel like there's two types of families. It almost feels like there's no one in between. And like one type of family is like rushing in. They like want vaccines early. They're like renewed interest in COVID boosters. Like, they literally want everything immediately. They're fearful of vaccines not being available. So I definitely see like that group of people. And
Yeah.
then I would say the other group of people is perhaps had some hesitancy, wasn't super enthusiastic, and now feels kind of more validated in those feelings and asks more questions or declines more frequently. And that is also happening. And it's
Hmm.
Mm.
interesting because you really can't predict who's who. Like, I struggle a little bit to know, like, oh, this family will do this or this family will do this.
Yeah.
Um,
Like
but
it's
yeah,
across
it's
demographic slices, and
for sure,
it's so
for sure.
interesting, like the polarization just in every little pocket of our
Well, we've
culture.
talked a lot about MAHA, uh, Make America Healthy Again, um, parents, moms, and kind of like how it is like blurry, like the kind of, you know, um, okay, I like to give my kids organic food. Sure. Okay, that's nice. I shop at the farmer's market. Great. I don't do vaccines. Oh, okay. I thought we were on the same page and then it veered way off, and like the surprise of, like for me
Yeah,
has
no, I mean,
kind of been
I think there's
interesting.
a bunch of reasons why people choose not to vaccinate their children. Like, I think there's very affluent people who do sort of hold that belief system of like this fear of, anything foreign entering my body, or like this
Yeah.
idea of things that are unnatural. I also have families with just really low health literacy that like happened to hear some random thing on TikTok that freaked them out a little bit and didn't really know how to research it or think about it, but it was enough to sort of shift how they think about something. And
Hmm.
then I also have families, which I think is interesting, and like part of the reason why things like getting rid of school mandates really scares me is there's a lot of families who just vaccines have never been a huge priority. It was kind of like, yeah, we did them because our pediatrician said we should and because the school said they had to get them. But honestly, like, I didn't think about it at all. And I fear that, like, if states change policies, if schools change policies, those people just sort of will stop going, not because they had any
Yeah.
opposition to vaccines,
Yeah.
just
There's
because
like
like
no
going to the
motivation.
doctor wasn't the top of their list.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I hate needles. So like I'm sorry to tell you, Megan, I haven't gotten my flu shot yet this season. And
Sarah!
I know
You're
it's
doing all
Sarah.
right. Don't
it is
worry.
not an ethical thing. It's just like, right, if it was a requirement for me for work or something, I'd just get it
Then you
done.
do it. Exactly.
But I'm
Yeah, no,
like,
the requirements really work. They
It's a
motivate
requirement
people,
for this
like,
podcast that you get. I'm
yeah.
making it a requirement. You cannot record. I will not record with you until you
There's
get your
still
flu shot.
time. There's still
but I
time. I
get
always tell
so
people, yeah, like,
lightheaded.
The
I
flu
almost
is
pass
gnarly
out.
this year. Go get your flu shot. You're
I
old.
know.
Go get a
if
flu
you
know.
shot.
haven't had the flu, it does seem, I told people
I
this year, it's like not a perfect match, but I have found for sure that my patients who are vaccinated seem to be way less sick for way less
That's
long.
good
Though
to know.
they still get the flu, but
I did
it's
get the
not
flu
terrible.
2 years ago, and it was the most sick, other than like childhood meningitis, that I've ever been. It was
Yeah,
awful.
this current
That
one is,
wasn't
oh
enough
wow,
to
you
have
had
me.
meningitis. That sounds very bad.
Yeah, I don't remember it, but there were a lot of needles, and maybe that's why I'm
Yeah,
afraid of
maybe
them. We
that's
don't
where
have
your
to unpack
fear
that.
came from.
I
Um,
know.
well, I've heard that needle fear is like a big one. Like because
There's
I
a
Yeah.
wrote a
really
little bit
cool
about
device. Have you
yeah
heard of this Buzzy Bee
No,
yeah
because my
device
son is
thing?
afraid of
with the
needles too. We
ice,
both get like vasovagal
Oh
response
yeah, they should
stuff.
do the little cold Buzzy
the
Bee
Buzzy
thing.
Bee,
It's
What
great.
is it?
and you can do
It's this like little tiny vibrating device. We keep it in the freezer so it's cold and it vibrates and it sort of like gives your body a sensation. So that way when the needle enters your arm, your nerves are distracted. And so you don't feel the needle as
But
much. And it's
do
like
you buzz it like
it's
by the site of the
yeah, you
shot or
stick it
somewhere
like
else?
right nearby.
Oh,
and
Yeah,
oh,
you're
also
ask your doctor if they have one.
they should
wait, but
have
I
like
want
a
it.
comfort
Grown-ups can do it,
menu.
right?
Like there's so I wrote when I was at Rumber, I wrote a piece about like how to make shots hurt less. And I'm sure
Oh,
Megan knows all about this, but like I interviewed this doctor who he's a palliative care pediatrician and he works with a lot of kids who have to get a lot of needles. And he said that you can do lidocaine cream for half an hour before. And so we always do that for the kids when we know they're going to get a shot. We do, it's like, I'm going to get the percent wrong. It's like 0.4% or 4% or something. And you rub it on and you leave it. And then we get there and we wipe it off. So it like numbs the spot. And then we do shot blocker. And then they do like bubbles or they watch something or they play with a toy. Like we just
oh.
we hit it with everything we've got and like
Yeah. I
try
do
to make it
a
positive.
nurse, like it's crazy too. I love the idea about the menu because like I encountered this with so many different nurses or like phlebotomists, and some of them really are good with it and others are just like it's like they've never
Eh,
seen someone
I
not like a needle
know.
before. But
Yeah.
one nurse taught me that if you put an ice pack on the back of your neck, it helps you with the vasovagal response. And then the other thing I do that I taught my son is I usually bring a bag of M&Ms, of peanut M&Ms,
Yeah.
and I'm holding them in my hand while it's happening. And then afterwards, I immediately start eating them to get like my blood sugar up.
I
I
like
love
that. That's a
I
good
still
idea.
don't want to get
Well,
the flu shot,
hot
guys.
tips. Okay, well, so
There's
we'll
a spray. I think the spray's back.
Oh, the
So
Oh,
nose
yeah.
spray. Thank
yeah,
you,
it was
doctor.
gone. It was gone for like a year or two, and I think it's back in action. So you could
Well,
try
we'll
for
link
that.
to this, all these
Uh-huh.
things. Okay, so I wanted to kind of ask you about your work because you've been talking about it a little bit. But so in a post on your Instagram, you explained that you work at a clinic less than 3 miles from your house, mostly working with children living in poverty. And as you wrote, as I raise my own kids just down the road, I've become more aware of the unfair advantages that money buys them. So I'd really love to talk about this. Sarah and I often have wondered about the gap between the stuff that Sarah, I mean, the way we open the show, like how parents like Sarah and I, and writers and parent media focus a lot on these like, oh, is it gentle parenting or is it intensive parenting? Or, oh no, am I a helicopter parent? Is that bad? Why is that bad? Screen time, blah, blah, blah. And, but I wonder about what we are missing. You know, what are the families in different demographics worried about or thinking about. Um, and it sounds like you kind of have an interesting lens into both of those worlds.
Yeah, so I previously worked at a federally qualified health center, which is basically like a safety net clinic in the US. So it's for people who either have no health insurance or who have Medicaid health insurance. And now I work at a more academic clinic, but I still see a really high percentage of people that have Medicaid. And so I've always worked with kind of lower income families. And yeah, I think really a lot of the priorities of those families is just sort of basic survival. And I think
Mm,
people in the United States sometimes forget like what a large percentage of people live in that way. Our child poverty rates in the US are higher than like other developed countries. And so we are an anomaly. We have more poor children living in the US than other developed countries do. And I think that's a policy choice. Like we don't make getting housing easy. We don't make preschool and childcare available to everybody. We don't give everybody paid leave. It's really hard to access benefits like
mm,
SNAP and health insurance. And
mhm,
so, our tax credits are not particularly generous for children. And so I think we've set up this society where like it's easy to be poor and it's easy to have nothing, no, even if you're hardworking. And so I think a lot of the families I work with are just struggling to meet basic needs and they don't live in a community that's helping them very much. And so, we focus just a lot on the basics of like, how can we help your child sleep despite the fact that they have to stay with their aunt until you get off work at 10 p.m. and then you have to pick them up and then you have to drive them home, but then they need to be at the bus stop by 6:30. So, it's like it's a lot of problem solving of just like really difficult complex life situations. And
yeah.
so I think that's honestly what's driven me towards being so engaged in policy is realizing that I can't stand this idea that the harder you work, the easier your life gets because every single day I just witness that that is not true. Like I
Mm,
see hardworking people every single day, like working from 7 o'clock in the morning until 10 p.m. at night, and they have the hardest life you could ever envision. And I think unfortunately our country is structured in a way that like you can work incredibly hard and still barely be able to feed your kids and see your kids and have any free time. And so, yeah, I think that for me, it's like I love seeing families in clinic and working through problems in clinic, but a lot of times I feel like we can't solve the problem because there aren't policies in place that can facilitate the problem being solved.
yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
Thinking
yeah.
Can
about
I
that
ask
10 minutes. Yeah,
can
like
I
that.
ask a follow-up question? Yeah, right, that 10 minutes is a lot. Um, how do you kind of integrate or reconcile that given that I'm going to make an assumption. I know you're a good kind of doctor. You're not, so maybe you're not at the top tier of income, but like that you come from a middle class home, right? And a white collar home. And so your kids are being raised in a different kind of, I would assume, parenting culture. I don't know what the vibe of other parents around you are, but like, you can tell me if my assumptions are wrong, but how do you thread that in, knowing kind of what you know and seeing every day about kind of the real decisions that a lot of parents are making?
Yeah, I mean, so I live basically in like an affluent, mostly white suburb neighborhood outside of DC. And I would say that I love the neighborhood that I live in. I chose it specifically to raise kids in, and I love it because I think people are really focused on kids' childhood here, and it's in a way where like we have tons of playgrounds. I remember coming to look at houses and seeing kids on bikes that looked like they were 4 alone. And I was like, "Oh, there's like 4-year-olds alone on bikes here. Like that's a good
You didn't
vibe."
report those kids to
No,
yeah.
it's like I was like, "Great." And I will say I live in this amazing, unique neighborhood where kids are given that incredibly classic childhood. Like anyone buys their like someone younger than 9 a cell phone and all the other parents shame them. Like everyone's like, "Absolutely not. Like we're preserving childhood here. Get that phone out of here." And so I feel so lucky to see the childhood my kids get to live. And I think that's part of what really motivates me to keep doing my work as a pediatrician is because I think every single child deserves to be a kid. And we have to structure society in a way that, like, your income level is not what predicts your childhood. And again, like what I really, really strive for my children, and honestly, all children is actually really simple. Like, I want them to be able to have some level of predictability. I
Hmm.
want them to have sleep. Like, sleep, I care so much about sleep. I want them to have food that's varied and available to them like 3 to 5 times a day. I want them to have friends, and I want them to have like safe places to hang out. And I'm like, those are the principles that I am using to raise my own kids. And that is what I want for every single kid in the United States. And it literally deeply infuriates me that you have to have money to get just
Yeah.
basic childhood, like these are basic things like sleep,
Yeah.
food, play, friends, safe places. Like, that shouldn't depend on your income, but unfortunately in the US it really does.
Well,
Right.
that's we talked a little bit briefly earlier about the um this woman Eloise Rickman who wrote a book called It's Not Fair about kind of um children's rights, and a lot of it was built on the UN Convention on the Rights of the Child, and from her we learned that the US has not chosen to ratify that. And that was really like a huge moment for me when I learned that, and it really helped me see our country more clearly. Just to learn that that was a sticking point. Like, these very and it's a very it's very UN in the way that it's written. I'm sure you're familiar with it, where it's quite broad, and you could and open to interpretation, and you it's certainly not as, in some ways you could criticize it for not being rigid enough or defensive enough of the rights of the child, but they're just trying to say some basic stuff, like
Yeah.
kids
It
have the
doesn't
right to
stipulate
play.
organic versus not organic. Yeah.
Right, it's like
Yeah.
kids should be allowed to play. Kids should
Yeah.
be able to go to school. Kids should be able, and we couldn't say, "Yeah, we think every kid deserves this." And,
Here's what you have me
yeah.
thinking, Megan, is like, because I was kind of going, I'm still, of course, I'm still like gnawing on this topic that I was talking about at the front of the episode, is like about kind of performativeness and humility and judging other parenting. Is that like when I hear you talk about your clients, there's part of me that goes to like, oh, what an like, I I can't believe that people in like my little culture are worried about like whether or not they tell their kids to put their shoes on or ask them nicely. Like, that's a bunch of bullshit. That doesn't fucking matter. All that matters is this and this, and other parents are out there like struggling, and so I should like shut the fuck up. And then I'm like, well, that's kind of also a little bit weird and like a little bit maybe like exploitative of the stories of parents who are struggling in order to like use that as a weapon against other parents who care about tiny details. And so does that get us anywhere? But I've already listening to you has already talked me down from my spiral about that, because what I'm hearing you say is something that feels pretty kind of grounded. And there's this term that my friend Courtney Martin uses a lot, which is like right sizing, is like that all I hear you doing is kind of like right sizing what matters about parenting. Not that like you don't have the right to be deeply conscious about how you talk to your kids about their emotions or whatever. Like, if that's what you want to do and you feel like that's important to you as a person and it's how what you want to share with your kid, awesome. But like right sizing the like big buckets of what matters feels like something you've been able to do because of, the range of childhoods that you're kind of seeing. And I like
Yeah,
that.
I think too a little bit of like I see it almost as reassuring. Like, if these type of conversations ever do come up in clinic about parenting styles or about screen time, like a parent who is being self-reflective and debating how they're doing things, I'm like, you're good. Like, the fact
Mhm.
that you even have this conversation going on in your head and that you have time to be self-reflective in how you're raising your kid, like, most people don't even get to that point and
Yeah.
can't get to that point. And so part of me
I
is like,
know.
if you're there and you're like talking about parenting styles, like you're fine.
I'm
You know, like
laughing
Yeah.
because when I see parent coaching clients, I like make them the support plan. And the first thing at the top of the support plan is parent and family strengths, like before we get into
Yeah.
the problems. And like basically on every single one of the strengths is like, you came here, like
Yeah.
you
Well,
yeah.
and
wanted
had the
to think
time and the
about your
money,
parenting.
right? Well, so
Yes.
Megan, I want to hear you've spent a lot of time thinking about policy, and I want to actually hear from you. Um, what we care a lot about these policy things too. I think you know probably a lot more than we do. I've been thinking a lot about early childhood care, and I've been subbing at this preschool and kind of encountering like how unsustainable those places are just in
And
terms of
wearing a really cute overalls.
wearing a
Okay.
very cute little poncho and but the pay is like I'm volunteering. I mean, I am like it's terrible. But it's I'm doing it for love and cuz I'm crazy. But so I was reading a little bit about early childhood education and I read this statistic that was like for every dollar invested in early childhood education, you make it back. Like our economy makes it back $16. And
Yeah.
I'll have to track down that statistic. But I was like, and I hate arguments like that because I'm like, oh, this is like capitalism interfering. But we
Yeah.
live in
Why do we have to
capitalism, so
measure it?
whatever. But
Can't we
so
just
Megan,
be
I'd love to hear.
happy?
I mean, and there's also a lot of stuff about how across the aisle people really agree about things like paid
Mm.
parental leave, right?
Mhm.
So, how can people like Sarah and I who have a little extra time, um, we may not think we do, but compared to a lot of your clients, it sounds like we sure do. So, what could we do to get more involved? Is there, should we pick a passion like policy item or because sometimes I also feel like kind of scatterbrained about like
Yeah,
oh I care about
overwhelmed.
this, oh I care about this, oh we need to build cities differently, like oh we need to
Right, there's so
what
much.
kind of
For
advice could
sure.
you give to a parent who would like to have that kind of
Mhm,
impact for other parents so that they could have time to worry about
mhm.
whether or not they're gentle parenting or not.
Yeah. No, definitely. I mean, I will say you hit on my favorite policy topic of choice, which actually is childcare funding and preschool funding. And it's honestly what drove me towards policy in the first place. And so that was
Mm.
my entry into learning about policy. Really, I had my first daughter obviously now 6 years ago. And at that time I was applying to get her into daycares and they didn't call me back until she was 2. And I think I applied when I was like pregnant. And so I was like, oh, okay, well, like obviously we don't need this anymore. It was 2 years later. And when they called me back, the prices were like $20,000 per year for one kid.
Mhm,
And so, and even as a
mhm,
doctor, I'm like, that is tough for me to afford.
mhm.
And so I started being like, wait a second, I couldn't get a spot and I can't afford this. That's nonsense. Like, how are my patients doing this? And I started paying more and more attention to what my patients actually were doing. And they weren't
Mm.
using childcare, like they weren't using formal childcare. Again, like I said, most of their parents are incredibly hardworking. Like they're cleaning houses, they're working in construction, they're driving Uber Eats. Like they're really busy people. And so I started realizing that all of my patients were being cared for by neighbors or by friends in these really like informal ways. And when I drilled down to like, okay, no, literally what's it look like during the day for this kid? They're in one single apartment. There's like one adult looking after 10 kids. Everybody's on an iPad the entire time. They're not able to go outside. They're not able to play. They're all on iPads because they got to be quiet because they're all in an apartment building and there's 10 kids. And I'm starting to see like speech delays, developmental delays, rising rates of obesity because of how kids are cared for before the age of 5. And so, like in my state in Virginia, I started being like, okay, I'm going to try and help these kids get into childcare. Like, if they can spend the day away from screens, socializing, that will be better than the current situation. And our childcare subsidy waitlist in Virginia is currently over 10,000 children.
Jeez.
So
Oh,
I'm like,
man.
I literally could not get them in. And then what's so frustrating is they have developmental delays. They would highly benefit from something like pre K or Head Start. but I can't get them into those programs either because they all have wait lists and there's not enough
When
spots.
does open school begin in Virginia? Is it 4 or 5?
It's kindergarten.
Oh,
Yeah,
because we now this year we've kind of like slowly in California opened up. Now it's all 4-year-olds have
yeah. So,
TK.
some
Yeah,
states have universal pre-K, but ours
right.
doesn't.
Yeah.
And so it was, we're waiting until 5. And then the crazy part is these kids then enter kindergarten. They're not potty trained. They have severe language delays. They're having terrible social problems because they've just had a really hard life for 5 years. And the piece for me as a pediatrician is like the way your brain grows from 0 to 5 is really, really, really hard to sort of like change trajectories after that. It's like we build this basic architecture, and that's kind of a lot of the architecture you're working with into adulthood. And
Yeah.
it's not to say that kids don't have malleable brains, they do, but early childhood matters immensely. And so, I started being like, why on earth is our childcare subsidy waitlist 10,000 children? And that got me into learning like
Mm.
how childcare is funded in this country. And essentially, states put in some money for childcare subsidies, but the majority of it comes from the federal government. And the federal government just allots not enough to reach most people. Like, my current frustration. So I just got this email this round of funding, which I'm sure you're hearing all about, whatever shutdowns and Senate budgets and stuff. But
Mhm.
essentially, they just passed the federal child care subsidy funding for 2026, and it's like $8 billion. And maybe in your head, you're like, oh, 8 billion, yay,
No.
like that sounds good, which is like what my email said. It was like, yay, $8 billion for child care subsidies, like best news ever. And
Mm-mm.
it's like the ICE budget was like 75 billion,
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
and you're like, okay, 75 versus 8. Like
Right.
that's crazy. And that's
Yeah. And the
childcare
kids don't
for
even need specialized, war vehicles. So
no, they
it's
do not.
actually it goes a lot further.
Yeah, and
Oh,
it's so once you start looking into this, you're like, "Oh my God, why is no one fixing this?" And
right.
it's, one point I make all the time that I feel like not enough people understood or talked about is like one example is, when President Biden, I don't know if you guys remember Build Back Better, but basically
Yeah.
Build Back Better was his first like giant
I
package
thought you
of
were asking if we
legislation.
remembered President Biden. And I
Do
was
you
like,
remember that
honestly,
man?
Only
not
kind
really.
of.
It's
Yeah.
It was like
a
a
lot.
little vague, a little
A
shaky,
lot of
but
new memories have replaced that now, and
well,
they
I
are
will
strong.
always,
But yes,
one of my
sorry.
largest frustrations is I felt like President Biden's PR was poor.
Yeah.
And
Mm,
like
because that was a
people
good
literally
program.
didn't know what he was trying to do. And he was
Mm,
trying to do very good things. And so Build Back Better had universal pre-K for the entire United States. So
yeah.
every single child in the United States would have pre-K at least by age 4. It would have paid for childcare for everyone in the United States. People would have had to put in 7% of their income. So you like take your income, multiply it by 0.07, and that's how much you would pay.
Mm-hmm.
And then the government would pay the rest. You
Oh,
could stay at your center. You wouldn't need to change anything. You would
right.
stay at your
You'd
same
get
place. It
yeah,
also gave every single
the good
person
kind of voucher.
paid maternity, paternity leave. They started it at 3 months and then it got chipped away down to like 6 weeks, but it was still paid maternity and paternity leave for everybody. And it would have massively raised the child tax credit for everybody. So all parents would pay way
Mm.
less taxes. And you're like, this thing was lacking one single vote, like with
Ah,
one vote,
oh
just the
my
one.
God.
Who was
Who
Yeah,
was
it?
it?
Joe
It was Joe
Manchin of West
Manchin.
Virginia. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh.
Coming for you. Oh,
I
man.
Yeah,
mean, the plus side of that is like, gosh, that's close.
that's close.
Is like,
It's real
oh,
close.
it
Yeah.
almost feels like,
You're like,
well,
next time.
and
Next
can
time.
I just also, I want to talk, keep talking about policy, but like, I'm doing this kind of right sizing of parenting in the back of my head and the kind of like not blaming parents piece. And, I think just to check with you, Megan, kind of like what you're saying is like when you were kind of painting this picture of like kiddos, who for a lot of good structural reasons are kind of, not getting a lot of interaction and on screen time, you're not saying like these parents need to make sure that their kids are only on 30 minutes of educational games a day, or like you're just saying like they just need childcare. Like that
Yeah.
feels right sized to me is like
Well, the piece that I think about all the time is like this notion of like free will and personal choice and you just have to do better. It's like it makes no sense because people with money all do it better. And
Mm.
so, like, it's not that people with money all happen to have better willpower. It's like there's something in their life that lets them do it better. And I think
Mhm.
when it comes to early childhood, it's childcare, it's preschool.
Yeah.
And obviously, like, I also love the idea of parents having free time. Like, working all day as a house cleaner and then going to drive Uber Eats every single night is an insane thing for like a
Yeah.
mom to be doing. But
Yeah.
so many moms in America live like that.
Yeah, a
Yeah.
lot of
And
parents at my kid's school.
Well, we
yeah,
wanted to
Mhm.
talk about an w how many parents are on SSRIs. It's on our list to talk about. And Megan, I don't know, I know you're not treating the parents as your patients, but it sounds like, you are caring for the family unit. And a friend of mine who's a doctor who does family medicine said that she has patients who are postpartum who have to go back to work at like 2 weeks, and they end up on SSRIs immediately because, of course, I mean, they feel like garbage. And thinking of about what you were saying about the fundamental importance of having a little bit of bonding time, a little bit of playtime, a
Mhm.
little time to enjoy your kid, right? Like, and it sounds like these people never get to go beyond logistics. And I think so many people are in that boat, and how just heartbreaking as a parent, like to miss your kid. Like,
for sure. No, and I mean, I see it. It's interesting because I really fight for the like totally affordable childcare and preschool. It's like my husband jokes that it's my Roman Empire. I'm literally embarrassed sitting here. It's like touching me, but I've got my like Raising a Nation, Why the United States Needs Childcare for All book sitting right here that I've been reading.
yeah.
And it is, I do think, like, I'll tell you my own experience with our preschool. So my daughters have gone to this like co-opy preschool where the parents help out a lot. And I'm like, that's where they've met all their friends. And then I've gotten invited to the birthday parties. So then I meet all the parents. And then we help out at the school and we clean the school. So we all work together and we bond. And it's like, in addition to literally relieving me of stress so I can go to work and knowing my kid's in a good spot, like it's created our whole community. Like, I do think that piece of it, like not allowing people who can't afford it to have that community is another thing that's just harming people. And I
Mhm.
feel like I see it all the time with lower income families that can't get subsidies or can't get into Head Start. But I also see it with higher income families who I see
Mhm.
so many people who try to juggle remote work and childcare, and it makes the parents crazy and it puts the kids in a an unideal situation. Like I literally did it today. My 3-year-old, our nanny wasn't here yet. My 3-year-old was with me and I had to do a meeting. And I was like a really bad parent for that meeting. Like I was just like staring at my computer. Every time she tried to show me her doll, I was like, Shh, stop showing me your doll. And I'm like, I don't like to treat her like that. Like she wants me to
Mhm.
look at her doll. She's trying to be a social engaged human. Like she deserves to have teachers and friends who can engage with her when I'm not able to.
Right.
Um,
And to go back to like we don't have to get this specific, like it doesn't have to be a Montessori or a Waldorf preschool, or it doesn't have to be with a
no,
nature area. We're just talking about like basic human connection and stimulation.
yeah,
Right?
and I think
Yeah.
the cool part, so like the one part that I love about childcare policy in the US is, so the vast majority of childcare centers and preschools in the US are private. So it's
Mhm.
not like school districts are running these things most of the time. It's usually private. And a lot of times they're even in people's houses.
Yeah.
They're also a
That's
lot of times like
that's what my
in
kids got for a
churches
few
or
years.
temples, like
Mhm.
yeah, there's like religious institutions that run them. And so the amazing thing about the federal subsidy system is they will pay for any of that. So there is no, as long as it's licensed, like as long as it's allowed to operate as a
Yeah.
childcare center or preschool. And so I think that is such a cool model for our country. And it's also something that I think could be supported in a bipartisan way,
Yeah.
because it does
Conservatives
offer
love
parents
choice.
choice. Yeah. And it's like, if you want your kid to
Or like a
get,
Bible
you know,
preschool or
to
something.
sit and
Yeah.
learn about Christian values from the age of
Yeah.
2, like, perfect. And it's actually one of the very rare examples where federal dollars do go to religious institutions.
Sure.
And frankly, it's an example where I'm like super supportive of it. Like,
Yeah.
yes,
Yeah,
you
Can I give
interesting.
you a compliment? I just
Yeah.
think that, okay, when we kind of teased this episode a little bit, one of our wonderful listeners, Lucy, wrote to me about like, you have a pediatrician on, like, can you talk to her about what she thinks about like why so many parents experience that like pediatricians kind of don't think about the whole family because they're so focused on child development. And like, clearly that's not everybody. And also there could be some good things about that. But like, I do hear you I hear you thinking about the family system, and being able to kind of balance that, versus like, I'm sure, like, I mean, there's horror stories in every profession. People tell me all the time about terrible therapists they had, but like, that kind of thing around like, your kid's in the second percentile. You have to like wake them up every 2 hours to feed them. And, they're going to need breast milk and the parents are like, literally mentally ill and the kid is like just small, but they're growing, that kind of
For
scenario.
sure. No, for
I don't know
sure.
if you have any
I
thoughts
mean,
about
there's
that.
obviously like a wide spectrum of us in our profession.
Oh, you
Um,
don't say. Yeah. It's
and
normal.
yeah, I will say I'm very much I generally feel like my job is to support families with what they want support with. And I think,
Hmm.
I think that is kind of our job, is like people come to us and we try to help families out with like what they want and need support with. And I think you know, it's impossible to think about the health of a child without thinking about the context of that kid's life. Um, and so, yeah, hopefully everybody's fairly okay at that.
Yeah, I feel like I learned and maybe we just have a good pediatrician, but like when my kids were newborns, like I realized that those appointments, like that you go to so many in the first like 8 weeks or whatever, I was like, wait, you're checking on me. Like you,
That's
like I realized, because
great.
they were like, and how are you feeling?
Yeah.
And it was like, and the second time around, like with Nellie, I fully was like, this appointment is for me and I'm going to talk about how I'm doing and I'm tired. And um, like, I feel like my pediatrician just like when I was like, "We're gonna sleep train like at 16 weeks," and I was like, "That's okay, right?" And she was like, "Yeah, yeah, you're good." And like
Yeah,
she knew I needed that. I'm a permission person. Like, someone give me permission. Like she was like, "Yeah,
good.
go for it." Um, well, anyway, so Megan, I think it's time for us to wrap up, but we always ask for culture recommendations. So it could be a book or a movie or a TV show that you are enjoying. It could be something you're enjoying with your kids. Anything that you're loving
Ooh,
right now. It
good
could be the book that you just
question.
held up, whatever you want to
Oh yeah, well,
recommend.
we'll always promote Elliot Haspel. He is fabulous. His book is
Oh.
called Raising a Nation. He's one of the like childcare policy experts.
I
I
believe
love
he has
reading.
a Substack.
He has an amazing Substack.
Yes.
I would highly
Oh.
recommend subscribing to that. His like newsletter is amazing. He covers mostly really anything related to sort of family economic policy. I love everything he writes. You guys probably are familiar also with KED's economist, Catherine Edwards. I don't know if you've heard of her. She's amazing. But I would
No.
highly recommend, she has a podcast called Optimist Economy.
Mm.
And she talks she is extraordinary. I would say she's changed the way I think. She talks a lot about sort of economic policy to support families, and she's awesome. And then fun wise, I'm currently watching Bridgerton, which has
Oh, the new
been
season?
a great
Oh,
time.
I
Yep,
haven't
good time.
started yet because I'm like really I'm moving through The Diplomat with my husband. But
oh,
I'm
Oh
like,
yeah, that's a
very
good one.
fun.
Love
yeah.
The
That's a fun
Diplomat.
But is
one.
the new season of Bridgerton good? Are you
It's
getting
really good. I feel like I'm allowed to spoil this just because it's like, well, no, maybe I won't.
No, go for it.
Yeah,
Spoil
no, I'm
it.
gonna spoil it. It's Cinderella. It's the story
Oh,
Cinderella, which
yes.
you will find out on the
Yeah.
Oh,
first
oh right, because
episode.
she's like a
You
maid
could
or
tell from the
something.
trailer. I think in the
Yeah.
Yeah,
trailer
but
they like
it is literally
like
just
fully.
Cinderella for the entire season. And so I'm like, I feel like my kids should watch this. Like
Mm.
it's just like a good Cinderella story. And it was
Mhm.
also fascinating to be like, wow, like I really like the movie Cinderella. Like I want to keep watching this.
Oh, yeah.
Um,
There's a lot of great,
yeah.
and like all the versions, Ella
We
and
just watched
Blanchett.
the live action, which I had never seen. I'm sure everyone else has seen it, but like
You mean
Kate
with Brandy?
Blanchett as the stepmother is the best casting I've ever
Wait,
seen in
which
my
live
life.
action? Not the Brandy one.
No, the Ken, it's like the Disney, they did a live whatever, but it's
Oh,
I
directed
haven't
by
watched that.
Kenneth Branagh, and
it's
it's got Kate Blanchett as the stepmom, and it's like Skarsgård is like
isn't
the
it one of the
bad
Lilies?
Duke.
Isn't one of the Lilies Lily James or something? Or there's all these Lilies.
It's a girl from Downton Abbey. I don't know.
Oh, okay.
All right, I'll test out
Anyway.
that one too. Now that I know that I love
Good
Cinderella.
rec.
Yeah, the kids loved
yeah.
it. My 4-year-old was like totally enamored for
Nice.
2 hours. Well, Megan, thank you so much. This was extremely educational.
Yeah, well, thank you guys for having me.
I'm sorry. I just need to, because remember I said at the beginning, my whole goal in life is to be right. It is Lily James as Cinderella.
Oh, good.
There you
Okay,
go.
great.
I only know her
Accomplishing your
because
goal.
she's also in Mamma Mia, Here We Go Again, which
Oh,
is
okay,
our
got it.
family's
yeah.
Cinderella. It's a big hit.
Oh yeah,
Great.
yeah.
It's been so nice having you, Megan. I'm gonna go get my flu shot. I will report back to you.
Yeah, see if they've offered that mist. I don't
Oh
think my clinic
man,
carries it, but
I feel
would
like you
get
hear
misted
about it,
so
but then
hard.
no one
honestly,
ever
yeah, the
has
mist,
it.
I'm always like, just the notion of putting something up my nose freaks me out more than a needle, but to each their own.
You do it, Sarah.
I put a lot of things up my nose in my young
Okay,
adulthood,
good.
so yeah.
There you go. You're prepared for
You're
this.
used to it. Well, thank you so much. Come back anytime.
All right, guys. Thank you.
Bye.
Let's see.
Thanks for listening to Mother of It All. And like my mom always said, let's do something fun for 10 minutes.
The Mother of It All is produced by Opus Knox Media with music from It's Electric. If you like this episode, why not send it to a friend right now? Go on, we'll wait. You can follow us on Substack at themotherofitall.substack.com, where subscribing will get you episodes and bonus posts in your inbox and connect you with the Mother of It All listener community. Plus, become a paid subscriber and get a hot off the presses Mother of It All canvas tote. We're also on Instagram at The Mother of It All, and you can email us anytime with ideas or feedback at motherculturepod@gmail.com.